Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. All right, we're back, and I have a fantastic guest as usual. This is a familiar face and someone who's been on the podcast before. Also, I got to see him in person, I think for the very first time in Las Vegas, as he was killing it at his conference, Elevates, and we'll be talking about more on that PD and how folks can join such a special group of educators in addition to awesome speakers like Adam. So Adam Dovico is back on the podcast. I'm so excited to see him. Thank you so much, Adam, for being on Aspire to Lead once again.
And thanks for having me, Josh. It's great to see you. And yes, we got to meet like in human form, not across the screen. Sometimes a little trippy when you think you know someone because you see them on social media or you talk to them and then you're in person.
I know. So I didn't even tell you I was going to be there. I just showed up.
No.
So you were completely shocked and surprised. I was too, because I had heard that you're going to be in the area. I wasn't there for business, but I definitely connected with several educators that were at various conferences in that time slot. I made my way over to you, and you had such a beautiful space, and you could feel the vibe, the energy at that. I know we typically do projects at the end, but for folks who may not know about Elevate, will you just share a little bit about that event?
Yeah, for sure. So Elevate Your Classroom is we'll call it a pre-K through second grade educator conference. It was started by two guys, Greg Warren Medley and Jason Warren, about 10 years ago. And it started off real small. And then about 4 to 5 years ago, they were getting more and more interest in attendees and getting pushed to travel and take it to different places outside of their home in Nashville. So they realized they needed to get some help if they were going to grow this and expand it and travel with it. So they grew a leadership team to help run this show. And I was fortunate enough to be brought on as the general manager. So I get to, as you could say, run this conference with an amazing team of educators. And for the past 4 years, I've been a part of this. And we've traveled to lots and lots of places from coast to coast, and thousands of early education, childhood teachers, a lot of leaders that come as well. It's such a good vibe. I mean, if you close your eyes and picture like kindergarten teacher, isn't that the person that you want in the audience? They're cheerful and excited and willing to do whatever. So that's our audience. And it's been absolute joy getting to run that show.
Well, you're a vibe itself, because just the suit was magic.
The suit is, I guess, part of the shtick now. So somewhat expected. I actually get more comments when I don't wear suits like this, when I'm doing stuff. And people are kind of annoyed that like, wait, why aren't you in one of your suits? So I guess got to make the people happy.
Hey, I was happy to see you, not only in person, but the suit itself was awesome. And you're wearing one right now for the YouTube audience. You got to tune in and check out the threads, as Adam always comes in style. So Adam, let's talk a little bit, because you've been on the podcast before. It's been always such a joy to have you. I feel like you've been on maybe multiple times, because I know you had written a book with Todd and Saloni, good friend of the podcast. And I think you both came on at one point, but I'd love for you just to provide an update, because you are a busy man, sir, and you've been doing a lot of different things in addition to getting your doctorate and working with the university. I mean, just in the small time that we talked before pushing record, it sounds like you've got your hands in a lot of wonderful things.
I don't know what to do if I'm not busy. So I do try to stay as active as possible, to sometimes my own detriment, but I love staying busy. And so, yeah, like you mentioned, in addition to the conference, to Elevate Your Classroom, my full-time job, I guess you could say, my full-time gig is I'm a professor and director at Wake Forest University, my alma mater. For those in the geographic area, probably heard of the university. I run their educational leadership program. And so I train, I guess, the next generation of school leaders. And I've gotten to do that for a few years now. It's an amazing opportunity, taking my 20 plus years in the K-12 setting and really bringing it to the forefront in the higher ed. And I'm particularly proud of my program because it's a practitioner-based program. It's truly meant for the people who want to take their learning and apply it the next day. All my instructors are current or recently in the classrooms and schools as administrators. So it's really about taking the practical knowledge of being a school leader and applying it immediately. And it's just fun. I really love it. And getting to take all the experience that I've had in the K-12 setting and bring it to higher education and applying it with adult learners, I love it. It's very blessed to do that. And then my other part-time job is I'm an unpaid Uber driver for my kids as I drive them
I
to
have the
go
same
back to
job, Adam.
school.
That's
Yeah,
weird.
it's funny. A lot of dads I know that we all have the same job, the unpaid Uber driver. So that's my other part-time job.
Yeah, I get that. That's fun. All joking aside, I love that you're doing that and pouring into new leaders. And I'd like to use that kind of as our baseline of our conversation today, because I know obviously we can go in a lot of different directions. Like you said, you've got your hands in a lot of things, but working with aspiring leaders, that was something that the birth of this podcast, I don't know if you know this, Adam, was I actually created a aspiring leader cohort on my district. It went so well that the district took it over, and then I had this void in my life that I needed to fill. And thanks to our dear friend Todd Nesloni, he said that the podcast might be a good platform to help other aspiring leaders. And so, you being boots on the ground, working with these new leaders, what are some common hurdles that you're seeing your students go through that you're assisting with?
Sure. So one of them is a really interesting one, and I have seen this mostly post-COVID, but it is how to hire, support, and retain today's new teacher. Let me explain that. So I think when you and I were kind of in the classroom and when I was a principal, the new teacher to me very much meant, the 22-year-old who just graduated college, someone looking to just jumpstart their career. The new teacher today, in many circles, looks very different. It might be the person who is in their second career. They are in their mid-30s, and they are first now getting their initial drink of water in the teaching classroom. It is someone who understands life experience. It is someone who may understand career trajectories, but may not have that teaching background that someone who was, the 22-year-old coming out of a educator preparation program knew. So from a leadership standpoint, to tie it all back together now from your question, today's leader, that new incoming assistant principal or incoming principal, they need to understand that the quote unquote new teacher looks very different than it did maybe 10 to 15 plus years ago. And that matters because how you hire them, recruitment looks a lot different too. How you onboard them, how you support them, how you retain them requires a very different conversation when someone's in their kind of mid-30s, maybe has a family, has already had a career, versus a 22-year-old who might be, in their first job ever, maybe single. So I do see that as one of the challenges for today's leader and for leadership in this current day and age. And a lot of it comes at the precipice of COVID and the turnover that we saw, the need for teachers at different levels and different spots, and frankly, just the climate of schooling right now and perception.
Let's move into the climate piece, because I know you've written books on school culture and climate. And obviously that's something that's hard for our new leaders to grasp, because they had obviously the teacher perspective, but when you're the leader of many folks and you're essentially the umbrella for the campus culture, what are some things that you're helping them through, especially because I know you were so fantastic at doing that as a campus leader?
Yeah, so it's funny. Last week, we actually just had an assignment in my course talking, and I asked my students, it was a discussion board post.
Sure.
And I asked my students, I said, talk to us about your current status at your school in regards to celebrations and awards and recognitions. What does it look like? And then I want you to really diagnose that, analyze it, dig deep into who is getting celebrated, why are they getting celebrated, how are they getting celebrated? Like, dig deep, go beyond the surface. And when they really dug deep, what we really evolved into the conversation, what we really uncovered was a culture conversation. The culture of the school is driving who is being recognized, if there are being recognitions. Some schools don't even have recognitions. And then you dive even deeper and you look at who is being recognized. And when we say who, it's students, it's teachers, it's parents, it's staff, all these different stakeholders. Who gets recognized? What are they being recognized for? And then we dig even deeper. Then we get into conversations about equity, and are people who are getting recognized, is that what they need? Are we missing populations? So to bring it back to culture and the climate of the school, I think there's a lot to be uncovered, a lot of layers that we as school leaders need to think about as we are designing the celebrations, the awards, because that really does go hand in hand with our culture. Because what is culture? It's that feeling you get. It's that initial, and I always tell parents, as I say, when you walk into a school, trust your gut. You're usually right. And what is that feeling you get when you walk in? And that is culture. It's how people feel. And how people feel is often dictated by how they are treated. And how they are treated is often dictated by how they are recognized, how they are seen, and how they are treated.
This is exactly what I was seeking, because there are so many people right now, especially this time of year, that over the summer, they've got that itch or the passion starts to bubble up. Like, maybe I can be a leader someday. Or maybe there's a conversation that happened, right, with admin talking about, I see these qualities in you, and I think you should get into a master's program. I think you should, do the steps necessary to become a leader someday. And I just think these are the conversations that typically aren't had, unfortunately, on campuses. To your point, we can feel it, but we can't identify it.
So you said something, and I really want to highlight it. You said someone told them to do this. And I ask every single one of my educational leadership students, I said, why are you here? And they have to actually write out, it's an assignment sort of about what got you here? And Josh, I kid you not, 95+% of them are in these courses because someone, usually a principal or assistant principal, said, hey, I see something in you. Hey, you'd be a great principal one day. Hey, did you ever think about being a school leader? Someone, and usually it's not just one person, several people in their lives, sometimes it's the person next door, the teacher next door, has told them this could be for you. And so when I bring a cohort of my students together, I always say to them, I say, you know what you all have in common right now? People believed in you. And then at the end of my program, my parting words to them are typically something along the lines of, hey, you made it through this program. You entered this program because someone believed in you. Go ahead and pay it forward now. Find that next person who is ready to take that leap, and help them register for the program, because I want enrollment numbers too. But I'm just kidding. But honestly, it is really a pay it forward system. Find that bright light in someone who can be a great leader and instill those words, those positive affirmations in them.
We were joking though, Adam, with that, but I mean, it's true. Like, you talked about COVID. How many folks have retired or left the profession specifically in leadership, where so many districts around the country are seeking quality folks to move up into those positions? I can think of so many conversations that I've had with both aspiring and current leaders where that's where we're at. So yeah, those conversations do need to be had. And especially if you're on a district, hopefully you have a program that exists where you can build those folks up within your system versus having to go outside of your system, which costs obviously way more money through HR to not only find them, hire them, and onboard them. So all that being said, I have a Aspiring Leader cohort that I run with Aspire to Lead. I love this program. I love working with them. And the first thing I do with them, similar to what you're talking about, is not only finding their why, but also talking about what are the experiences that you've done, right? We do kind of an inventory with them. So for you, when you're working with your students, what are some of the missing experiences that you often see that they need to not only be prepared to be in the role, but also to speak at the interview about what they've done, so that they are able to communicate that I am the best candidate to move forward?
So I'm going to give two very different answers to this. One
Love
is
it.
very mechanical. It's budgeting, it's hiring, it's maintenance, it's buses. It's stuff that honestly I wouldn't expect them to know before entering this type of program, just because as a classroom teacher, you're not exposed to that stuff, and that's okay. So there's I'll call it the management pieces. That's one of I'm in North Carolina. So that's one of the North Carolina standards, organizational management leadership. So all those pieces that require just the technical knowledge. All right, so that's one. The other thing I'm noticing as I have more and more students come through the program, as we're talking about being prepared for an interview, being prepared for like that big opportunity, this may sound weird, but confidence. It's believing in themselves enough that they are the right person for this job. We actually 2 weeks ago in my class, I brought in several. I have like an advisory board. They're all very prominent school leaders in the area, and we did mock interviews. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that came out of that was believe in what you're saying. Someone may not agree with it, but if you can at least say it with conviction and confidence, that comes across. And we need people in those leadership seats who are confident. That doesn't mean you're not humble. You need to be humble, but you need to be confident, because there are so many things that happen to you throughout the day, the week, the month, the year that are going to make you question yourself and your decisions and what you're doing. And if you don't have the self-belief that you are doing what is best for your school, if you don't truly believe that you are doing your best, you're not going to last long in those types of positions. So confidence, that may not have been the answer you're expecting, but I think confidence is one of the biggest pieces that I see a gap from transitioning from the teacher classroom position, which they're all confident there, no problems there, transitioning that into leadership confidence.
I was surprised, but as you were talking, I agree 100%. So I'm so glad that that's what you said, because I think when I went through the process the first time to get into that leadership position in Texas, it was the dean of students role. So
Right.
Getting into that the first time, I was talking about what I would do as a administrator versus what I had done, right, in my various leadership positions. And that was not speaking with confidence. The second time I went, it was a very different experience because of not only the examples and the stories that it provided, but I was more sure of myself. I knew the role better. I knew that I was more prepared a year later than when I came to the table before. So I'm so glad that that's the way that you went with that question. So let's discuss some of the projects you've got going on, because there's a lot of things that you're doing in leadership, not only, but then also child leadership too. And I want to touch on this because while you're answering the question, I'm going to find your book to my left. There's a lot of books over here, and I have it. I've read it. It's beautiful. But I think it's so important. You talked about ownership with those who are in these different roles, but our students need to feel ownership on the campus also. So as a building leader, I know you were so good at this. How did you incorporate the students into not only the campus, but also enhancing them as leaders in the building too?
Sure. So I don't think we have enough time to go through it all,
I
but
know, it's a big question.
I'll boil it down to a few things. So I think first and foremost, it's providing opportunities. It's finding spaces within the realistic school day where we can leverage students to demonstrate and practice their leadership skills. So a couple of examples. So one would be my classroom greeters. Every classroom in my school was expected to have a classroom greeter. And teachers knew that this was a job, classroom job. Every classroom required it. When someone walked into that classroom, yep, there it is, When Kids Lead, which I wrote with Todd Nesloni. And so in that classroom greeter job, when someone walked into that classroom, the classroom greeter was expected to stand up, go over. They didn't have to ask permission or raise their hand or anything. They just went over to the person who came in, shook their hand, said good morning. If it was someone that they didn't know or something, they could introduce themselves. Then they go back down. So it's just a simple act, a simple job that, we just said confidence a few minutes ago. This builds confidence for the students. Gives them the ability to say, "Oh, I can use my voice. I can speak to an adult." And so that little job, when it's done across the school, is consistency. And I always talk about when I talk about how to shift cultures at a school, one of the core elements is consistency. No culture is shift when it's happening in one classroom or in one grade level. Culture is shifted when something happens across the school. And for that to happen, oftentimes it comes down to the expectations of the leadership. When there's a principal, an assistant principal, leadership team, administrative team that comes in and says, hey, we're going to do this as a school, that's how we shift cultures. Now there's spots where it can be done in sectors of the school, and that's great. I always encourage teachers who don't have maybe a supportive school culture to still do the best they can in their classroom. But if we're talking full on shifts in culture, building student leadership, we need to find systems that are manageable, realistic, and attainable for a school. And so it's about those small victories along the way and then building upon them. And of course, in that book, in When Kids Lead, we share lots of examples of how we started somewhere. Both Todd and I started somewhere with various things. And then when we built, and it becomes celebration over time.
Yeah, I love this book so much. So I have it behind me, so folks that are watching on YouTube can see, but I've read it. It's wonderful. I want folks to grab that. I'll make sure the link is in the show notes for folks. But Adam, that's not the only book that you have written. So do you want to just share about the other resources that you have?
Yeah, so I also wrote a book called The Limitless School with my buddy Abe Hagee, soon to be Dr. Abe Hagee. He's almost done with his doctorate. And so Abe and I wrote The Limitless School about school culture. When we wrote it, we were both coming from schools that had very unique, special, I think what many would call very effective, positive school cultures. I was coming from the Ron Clark Academy. He was coming from a school that took a lot of the Ron Clark Academy and some other prominent models and were doing great things. So we took our collective knowledge and really wrote about what that could look like. And then my first book was actually a while back. It's called Inside the Trenches. And that book really was from my teacher mind before I became a school leader. And I really wanted to think about what can you do in the classroom? Because so often people, the lead story is what they don't have or what they can't do for any number of reasons. And I wanted to spin the narrative and kind of flip it and say, what can we do in the classroom? And so I wrote that very much from my teacher heart. So those are my 3 books. And then I wrote the book that no one will ever read, nor do they need to. That's called my dissertation.
Which is the size of a book.
Which is the size of a book. That's just called a labor of love and a means to an end to finish that.
I'm curious though, Adam, what was the topic for your dissertation?
I'm very passionate about the topic. The topic was the motivations of Black males to become elementary or educators.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it was a really cool study where I got to interview several Black males who are elementary school teachers and hear their story and bring that in with the existing research and share their story while also sharing kind of the takeaways about how we can find and recruit and support more Black males in elementary school setting, because it does make a difference.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And you do equity work in addition. We haven't really touched on it, but that's something that's a passion of yours also.
Yeah, that could be the next podcast.
As long as you keep saying yes, I will continue to have you on the shows. My friend, you're doing awesome work. So yeah, that's what I was saying. I was laughing because I feel like we could go in 10 different directions right now. So we'll have you on for sure again. But talking through projects, you are in the midst, or maybe you just finished an article in regards to instructional traditional strategy that you kind of pulled back up to say that this is something that can be used in the classroom. Will you share about that interesting topic?
Sure. So this, I guess, somewhat breaking news because I just submitted it recently, and I don't even know if it'll be published. So the world of academic journals is.
It'll be a blog or something if it doesn't.
Yeah, I can always turn it into a blog if it doesn't get accepted. I can turn it into a blog. But essentially, I wanted to write about something that I had done as a teacher for a long time, and I never really thought about writing about it. And I was in a conversation recently with some other educators or some other higher education, like college people. And they were like, oh, you got to write about that. Because I was telling them. So essentially, if you've ever done what's called Socratic Seminar, it's a conversation-based activity. A lot of educators have utilized it. And what I found was that the inner circle of the Socratic Seminar, where the 6 to 8 students that were in there, they do a great job. They talk, they converse, they have really good dialogue. The outer circle, which is expected to what we call actively listen to the inside circle, in my experience, when I had done Socratic Seminar, they maintained their engagement for a few minutes. It worked for a little bit, and then you check out. You just kind of loose engagement. I figure there's got to be a better way to do this. And I write about it in the article, but one of the students in my class actually solved the problem for me when she was so like antsy about wanting to share something, but she was on the outside circle, so she couldn't. She grabbed a piece of scrap paper and wrote a note about something she wanted to say and passed it to her friend on the inside. And I saw the note being passed, and I kind of stopped everyone. And she thought she was going to get in trouble for passing notes. But when I saw what it was, the light bulb turned on. And I figured out, oh, what if we use the outside circle as active participants in this activity? So long story short, I call this Covalent Seminar. And it's a instructional strategy that I've used in all sorts of levels of teaching. Yeah, hopefully it gets published. We'll see. But it's a cool approach towards teaching and getting dialogue and conversation going in the classroom.
For sure. Well, I mean, we're going to be disseminate this information via podcast. So people need to be writing this down and implementing it as the school year is about to begin. That's an awesome strategy. I love that.
Thank you.
Very cool. All right. I want to talk about one last project, and I'm going to get some advice from you. But you've got something that you've collaborated with your wife, which is so fun. You've got a podcast, EdMed Talks. Is that
That's
correct?
right. Yeah. This, I'll give you the very, very quick version of this. So back during COVID, we're all up in arms about what to do next. So my wife, who's a pediatrician, and myself as an educator, we were getting lots of questions from our friends, just internally about what are we doing? So obviously she had the medical knowledge, and from my perspective, the school knowledge, and collectively we're being asked a lot of questions, and I'm guessing our friends are not the only ones who have these questions. So we decided one night, just on a whim, we were like, all right, let's go on. We did Facebook Live actually first. We started on a Facebook Live, and we just shared our knowledge. And we didn't have all the answers, but we shared what we knew and what we thought could be some important things to know as a parent. And it blew up. I mean, it kind of went viral, that video, and a lot of people saw it, and we didn't do much with it after that. And then a couple of years later, we were like, you know what? What if we brought this back? And my wife said no. Hard no. She doesn't like the spotlight. She's not she doesn't like controversy. She doesn't like people not liking her. It's a tough world. And so I understood that, but we talked about it a little bit more, and I nudged her a little bit. And so we ended up doing it. And so we have created a podcast called EdMed Talks, education for mine, medicine for her. And these conversations are all about parenting. I think we've had 7 seasons now, 7 or 8 seasons. I can't remember, but we've like 80 episodes, something like that, 70, 80 episodes. And we cover literally every topic under the sun from the parenting standpoint, from ADHD to cell phones to behavior, and you name it. And we always take it from each perspective, from the medical perspective and from the education perspective, and then the collective parenting perspective. And we've had guests on the show. We've had all sorts of scenarios. So it's been really fun. I'll also share relatedly, she and I also opened up our own pediatric practice as well. I mean, truth be told, she's the doctor, and I'm
she's the head of it.
She's the head of it. I am not. I'm doing nothing more than Band-Aids. But as we joked before about staying busy and wearing all the hats. That's another one of my hats. So it's a cool model, though. It's a different model of pediatrics, if you will. So in addition to the traditional medicine and pediatric care that she provides, a lot of parents have questions about school. Anything from like, where should I send my kid to kindergarten? Like, what's a charter school? Is my kid ready for school? What do these test scores mean that I just got from my school? All these questions that literally, that's my bread and butter. Like I feel great about that. I can't diagnose a tuberculosis, but I can help you understand some Dibble scores. So I am the education half of our pediatric practice, and I meet with parents when they have those types of questions. So that's
so cool.
We're a good team, I think.
Oh, excellent, man. And that, we have the same dynamic. My wife is a nurse in our house,
Yep.
and the language of behavior was constructed by a blog that we put together where I had the education side. She had the medical parenting side of things. And it's fun that things are birthed just that with that collaboration.
It's nice when the stars align.
It does. But it makes sense as to those dynamics and why they fit too, as far as the household.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right, Adam. So let's get to the advice piece, right? Because it's great that folks hopefully are taking notes, they're learning, they're going to be implementing. But I would love for them to start thinking about, especially the time frame that we're in, right? We're starting the brand new school year. There's a lot of folks that are on the campus already and are preparing for students. So if there's something that our aspiring and current leaders can do tomorrow or next week to enhance their leadership journey, what would you recommend?
So you're right. With where we are in the school year, there's always that fresh optimism, right? Every new school year. That's the beauty of teaching. There's always a fresh start. And so if we're looking at enhancing leadership in this new school year, my advice is going to be envision. I'm going to use a metaphor here, if you don't mind. Envision your school as a mosaic, like a mosaic portrait. And this mosaic portrait, mosaics are put together through a lot of different pieces. And as a leader, it is our job to take these pieces, which are, it's our students, it's our staff, it's the parents, it's the central office, it's all these different stakeholders, the community, all these different stakeholders represent all these little pieces. And as a school leader, it is our job to figure out how they get put together. Mosaics are put together piece by piece, strategically, artistically sometimes, and intentionally. And I think as a school leader, that mosaic may not come together overnight. And that's why patience is really important. Sometimes it takes months. It could take the whole year. It could take a long time. But I think keeping your eye on that prize, on creating this beautiful mosaic with all the little pieces that you get presented each day and each week. And as a leader, figuring out how they all put together on what you know as the vision. Because as a school leader, we have a vision. I hope you have a vision, or else I got to talk to you. But you should have a vision, and you should know where you're heading. And yes, you should communicate that vision, but only you truly know exactly what it looks like. And putting those pieces together to get you to that vision, that beautiful mosaic portrait, keep your eye on that prize. So that would be my leadership advice for this year.
Well, as a former art teacher, you just filled my cup with that.
No, I didn't know that. All right. I didn't know you were a former art teacher. Okay. I did it on purpose. And there you go.
Adam, I want folks to connect with you, find out all of the beautiful things that you do in regards to not only resources, but I know you work with a lot of school leaders, a lot of campuses, you speak. I mean, there's so many things that you do. So can you just share out your website or social media handles?
For sure. Luckily, my name is unique enough where that's literally all I use. If you just can spell my name, which sometimes is a hard thing to do, but Adam and then Dovico, Dovico. It's my website. It's my social media handles. I've kept it simple. So you'll find me either way.
Wise man. That's easy to do. So we'll make sure that all of the links are in the show notes. We'll make sure the books are linked, podcast, everything that we've discussed today, because Adam is a huge resource, someone that's got a ton of wisdom, ton of knowledge. And I would definitely want everyone that's listening to tap into that, because I know for a fact, as we're looking at this for our leaders here, going into the new school year, we always need to lean on other folks. We can't do this independently. And so everyone that I bring on the show is very specific. And Adam is not only a friend of the show, but someone that I truly look up to. And I want you to make sure that you're grabbing all of the resources that you possibly can, because it's going to enhance your leadership journey. So with that, Adam, thank you so much for being back on the show. It was so good to see you in person, but then also to have this conversation online.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.